Welcome to the Path Monk Presents podcast. My name is Shawn Donnelly Lewis, and I'm really excited about today's episode. We're talking with a fellow Shawn Azman. He's the head of operations at Vidora. Shawn, welcome to the show.
Yeah, Shawn, it's really great to be here. Appreciate the time.
I'm sorry I couldn't introduce you correctly. I was so excited that I have a name twin on the show. This is a first for me.
Awesome. It's a small world.
Congratulations. You're like, this doesn't matter to you. Okay, let's talk about something that does matter. Vidora, what do you guys do?
Yeah, definitely. So again, I appreciate you taking up time. And so Vidora, we're a tech company founded, around 9 to 10 years ago here in San Francisco. And we offer a machine learning platform that we call Cortex. And the idea behind the product is to give accessibility to machine learning to teams who often hadn't have it. And so to give you some background, we started off our company doing a lot of consulting gigs around recommendations for companies, mainly B2C media companies. But what we found during those interactions was there was this plethora of data held by these consumer-facing teams, but they often didn't have access to do machine learning on top of it to learn more about their customers and predict their behaviors into the future. So our goal was then to give them an interface, really easy to use interface for non-technical people within an organization, to allow them to take the customer data that they already have, test out machine learning models, and then use that in their campaigns to see if they can gain any additional ROI from the campaigns that they were running. And so that's currently what we do today. We have a SaaS product that we offer to these customers to allow them to create machine learning models without any code.
Right. So it sounds like you have a pretty wide range of clientele, right? From big companies to the companies that are trying to get everything online and update their website because they haven't done it in 5 years, right? Talk about your clientele for the various clients that you guys have.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the first filter that we always use is what type of company are you and what kind of data are you capturing? There's so many different ways that you can do data science and machine learning in the industry, and we're not trying to tackle all of those different use cases. Rather, what we focus on is behavioral consumer data, as well as content and item catalogs if you're trying to do recommendations. And so through that lens of customer data with recommendations and predicting their behaviors into the future, we really do focus on B2C companies that have enough data scale from their customers in order to have a machine learn from those past data. So for example, news and media companies, video streaming services, retail or e-commerce customers, those ones that have sort of that large data volume coming in, and product and marketing teams specifically there to analyze and gather that data in order to create a better customer experience for their end users.
How have you guys been able to grow the company? You were talking about that you guys have been around, you guys just started a couple years, decade ago. What are the main channels that you guys been able to grow? Is it digital marketing, SEO? What would be some of those channels?
For sure. It's a really great question. And I would say sort of yes to all of those above. While we've been around for a few years, we're still a relatively small company. And the way that we focus our business is to keep a healthy business by keeping our current customers happy. So I think one of the metrics we're most excited about is we have an extremely high customer retention rate year over year. And when we talk about how do we acquire new customers, that is often one great lead gen avenue for us, which is customer referrals. Some of these large media companies, you can imagine, have many different brands underneath one umbrella corporation. So being able to get into new different publications, new sites through customer referrals has been a big boom for us. But also, given our size, lead gen outbound, sort of external marketing has also been very important. And so trying to increase our brand awareness through blogs, case studies, podcasts, those are all different ways that we try to increase our brand awareness in the market in order to entice more people to come and learn about us.
And what role does the website play in client acquisition for you guys?
Absolutely. I would say the biggest thing for us is probably education. If you think about the market that we're trying to sell into, which is sort of these customer-facing teams at these B2C companies, they probably have some kind of understanding of machine learning. They've probably heard the term artificial intelligence. But I would say still today, there's not a large majority of those customers that have actually themselves used machine learning on top of the data that they already have. And so I would say education is a big part of our sales cycle, and we rely heavily on the website for that. And that starts at the beginning of the funnel, again, as I mentioned, to increase brand awareness, to have people understand that the technology that we're providing is possible in the first place. But then as we progress through the sales cycle as well, continuing to educate them on not just maybe one use case, but on all the different use cases that they can achieve down the line, that's super important to us. And so the way that these conversations would typically work is, a customer is trying to say, which of our customers is most likely to become a customer? Which of our customers is most likely to churn? They maybe have one or two ideas that they have in mind. Through this constant education, we're always trying to tell them that with the same data, you can create many different kinds of predictions to use in many different other campaigns. So constant education, constant learning for our customers is a big part of our website.
And the website obviously is always continually growing, right? Continually changing. Room for improvement. If you're a marketing person, this is probably a long list, but for the sake of our podcast, we will keep it condensed. Would you say room for improvement for your website looks like maybe ability to convert visitors, the quality of leads, user experience? What would be the kind of room for improvement?
Yeah, definitely. I think the first one you mentioned is probably most top of mind for us, which is how do we use the existing content and information that we have on the website in order to get more people to sign up for more information, register to see a demonstration, want to become a customer, trying to find what are those key drivers that get somebody so interested that they want to learn more. You guys are probably well versed in this with GDPR and here in California, CCPA. The idea of capturing data from these customers who haven't raised their hand and say you can do it is becoming increasingly more difficult. And so getting something so enticing in front of a customer that they're willing to say, hey, I'd love to talk to you more, that's probably, if I could wave a magic wand, the main thing that I would improve on the website is just having it sort of provide us more conversation so that our sales team can sort of take it from there.
Now, coming back to what you guys offer, just for everyone listening in, what would you say is the main competitive advantage to other people that occupy the same space?
Yeah, it's a really great question because, as you mentioned, the space is quite large. And it really just depends on what you define by artificial intelligence and machine learning. So we think of it in sort of the way of who is the end user of the platform. If you look at a lot of machine learning SaaS providers, typically their end user is going to be somebody more technical, an engineer, a data scientist, somebody who knows how to create models themselves and maybe just wants an easier interface to do all the tweaking themselves. So they want something still bespoke, but they want just an easier way to manage that. Our competitive advantage is that we try to give the same kind of access to create models, but to a non-technical audience. And so we have a platform in which you don't have to know how to create a machine learning model. You don't have to know what it means to derive a feature from raw data. All you have to know is understanding of your data and have an idea of the kinds of predictions that you want to create and formulate that into a question. We already mentioned a few. Score each customer as their likelihood to churn. Score each customer as their likelihood to subscribe. And so as long as you can sort of formulate those business questions, our automation can take that raw data all the way out to those predictions. And so I would say our main competitive advantage is we give access to machine learning to different types of users and teams that have had it before.
Very cool. And this is always an interesting question for me because every company nowadays is, like I said, the digital marketplace is such an changing place. And I feel like even structurally companies are changing with the times. How do you guys have sales and marketing structured at the moment?
Yeah, it's a really great question. Currently, we're only a 12-person company, so everybody has to wear a few different hats. And so under that structure, sales and marketing is kind of the same team here at Vidora, if you will. So we have a go-to-market team, which encompasses all of the things you would traditionally think about within sales and marketing. And so we have a CRO who does most of our sales and prospecting. I help out a lot with a lot of the sort of sales engineering operational tasks. We also have a marketer who helps us create the campaigns, create our LinkedIn ads, email campaigns, and those kinds of things. And so we all work together, but I would say that there's not sort of a direct distinction between you do this and I do that. Rather, we typically make all of these decisions communally. And the whole idea is that the end goal is to get more customers into the business, that all of us are working together at every step of that funnel to get more brand awareness, more people to the website, more conversions, more sales opportunities. And so we really do feel like that's a shared responsibility across everybody within that team, even though when it gets down to tactics, we all may do something differently within that structure.
Very cool. Just to switch gears here a little bit, I want to talk about you as a leader. What kind of content do you consume to educate yourself and grow as a professional and as a person?
Yeah, that's a really good question. When I think of my education personally, I'm big on audio. And so I find that I listen to a ton of podcasts. I read mainly through audiobooks, and so I'll listen instead of doing the reading, and also YouTube, and it's not just the cat videos, but also sort of educational content for me that I may find interesting. So I almost always have headphones in, listening to something. And sure, it's also a bit of fun, but I think mixed in there is also personal growth. So learning more about business, learning more about sort of the science. Again, we're in the AI ML world. And so I feel like there's new advancements in that realm every day. So just trying to keep informed what's going on in the market, what's going on in the industry. And so I would say, listening to podcasts and audiobooks is the main driver of new information for me.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point that the actual cat videos are actually evolving and growing as well, and they're becoming more funny. No, I'm just kidding. My wife, every time she sends me something, usually I would say 9 times out of 10, it's nothing written. It's just a meme or a video, an animal video.
Totally. You can communicate so much more. Yeah, definitely.
That's right. So since we're slowly coming to the end of the interview, I do want to take it up a notch. I've been relatively nice, but now we're going to enter into rapid fire. And this is where I mercilessly throw questions at you, and you try and answer them as quickly and honestly as possible. Shawn to Shawn, you ready?
Yeah, I'll say quick. I'm not sure about honest. No.
Okay. All right. Well, Shawn, what was the last book that you read?
Last book I actually read 2 in tandem that I thought were sort of combined, which is Michael Lewis is my favorite author. And I recently reread The Big Short and Flash Boys ever since the whole GameStop Wall Street sort of debacle, if you'll say, at the beginning of the year. Both of those books give like an expose behind the scenes of how Wall Street actually works. And I just thought it was a nice tie-in to sort of the zeitgeist of the day.
What's the single focus that your company has at the moment?
And maybe because this conversation is sparking it, but I would say lead generation is always top of mind for us. Again, we have really great customer retention when customers come in and use the product. And so we really feel where we can add more fuel to the fire right now is increasing the lead generation coming into the company so that we can get more opportunities to convert those to sort of long-term customers.
If there were no boundaries in technology, what would be the one thing you would want to have fixed for your company today?
For sure, personal connections. I love Zoom and being able to communicate when I'm alone in my apartment. However, I can't say that I think it's a replacement for having a conversation person to person, face to face. And so if I could, sort of fix technology, it would be to make these kinds of conversations that we're having feel like they're in person and to get that personal connection through sort of digital means.
What's the last thing that kept you awake at night about your company? It could be a good thing. Could be a good thing. People say, "Oh, I'm so excited. We have so much going on, this and this and that."
Yeah, well, I guess the first thing that came to mind was a bad thing, which is just how does COVID impact our customers? I feel like that's been a constant sort of thought for us throughout 2020. Given that we're sort of typically introducing new technology into a company, the idea of sort of creating budget is much harder when you're going through a pandemic. And so I think that's something that we're always sort of thinking on is what are the macro environments and how are those affecting our customers? Luckily, I think we've had success throughout and see good growth going forward. But that's always something that we can't control that may still have an effect on our business.
If you were to start, let's say you start your professional journey over again, what would be the one piece of advice that you give yourself?
That's a great question. I would say probably speak up. Your opinions are valuable. And I would give this to anybody. I would think when I started my career, and this is probably pretty common, I was hesitant. I was green. I didn't think that my opinion could carry weight or be valuable to a conversation. But I think over time with your career, as you gain more experience, you realize that different viewpoints often add value, even if it's not the viewpoint that's taken as the direction for that decision or for the company. And so I'm telling anybody starting out, you have valuable opinions from your experience, even if it is limited. So never be afraid to speak up and share it.
That was Shawn Azman from Vidora.com, Vidora.com. Shawn, we usually give our guests the last word on the show. So if there's something that you feel like we've forgotten, or if you just want to sum up everything that we talked about, we just want to give you the space to say the last word.
Sure. Well, I'll start off by giving you a thank you again. I do appreciate you inviting me on and for taking out the time. Really enjoyed the conversation. For Vidora, I would say, the one summary key point that I would take is if you're a consumer-facing team at a B2C company, getting started with machine learning is probably quicker and easier than you may think. And we'd love to be the company that can help you through that process.
Great, Shawn. Thanks for your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you.